Hi, everybody, and welcome to Love Fraud Live. Some people seem to feel that their role in a relationship is to rescue their partners. So, where does this come from? And if this is you, what can you do about it? I'm Donna Anderson, author of lovefraud.com and host of the True Lovefraud Stories podcast. After betrayal by a sociopath, I help you to understand what happened, put down the emotional burden, and move forward. Tonight, I will talk about breaking the compulsion to fix and help. At the end of my short presentation, I'll answer your questions. So please subscribe to Love Fraud Live. When you do, you'll be notified about all of my upcoming YouTube videos. Okay, let's get started. Love Fraud once received an email from a reader whom we'll call Edna. Edna was in a relationship with a man for 7 years. She finally figured out that he was a sociopath and ended their engagement. Afterwards, Edna made light-hearted, self-deprecating comments like, "If you're going to treat a woman like crap, then I'm the girl for you." She thought her comments were funny until she realized that they were true. They weren't just flippant remarks. She realized, to her shock and horror, that she was not attracted to someone unless they were damaged. Oh my God. Even worse, that had been her pattern for her whole life. So Edna asked me, where did her compulsion to help and fix come from? More importantly, how could she break out of it? Or was it something that wouldn't go away and she just needed to be aware of? Well, in my response to Edna, the first thing I said was that she should congratulate herself. Edna had taken the first step towards understanding why the sociopaths and other partners who treated her badly, why they had shown up in her life. I believe that there is a purpose for our nasty encounter with a sociopath. We hate to admit it. We don't want to give these heartless exploiters, these predators, credit for anything. I get it. But generally, the object of the exercise, the reason we're involved with them, is to draw our attention to something within us that needs to be healed. Sociopaths hook us by targeting our vulnerabilities. By identifying how they snagged us, we discover those vulnerabilities. And once we know what they are, we can work towards healing them. So now Edna knew. She had a predilection to be attracted to damaged men. The question is, why? Why did she feel compelled to rescue people? Why did she expect to give while her partners took? Maybe you have similar questions about your involvements. When we look for answers, we sometimes find them in our family of origin. I've spoken to plenty of people who realize that they've gotten romantically involved with someone who was just like their mother or father. This brings the realization that their parent was probably disordered. Maybe this happened to you. Maybe you had a parent who was outright abusive. Or maybe your parent was negligent, demanding, or critical. If so, please have compassion for your younger self. As a child, you had to figure out how to survive in an environment that felt unsafe. Maybe you became vigilant, on high alert for signs that your parent was about to fly into a rage. Maybe you learned to anticipate their every whim. Maybe you became a perfectionist, or maybe you learned to take care of them and keep them happy. These experiences probably shaped you into becoming a people pleaser or a rescuer. Sometimes our upbringing and early lives were family normal, but we still managed to absorb unhealthy beliefs. This happened to me. I did not have an abusive childhood. My parents did the best they could. Still, I ended up believing that I had to do for people in order for them to want me around them. So there is a vulnerability, a lack, a wound within us, which the sociopath and other exploiters sense. Because we were groomed by our upbringing to be fixers and helpers, we felt that our role was to rescue or fix them, and they took advantage of us. Now that we know about our internal issue, what do we do about it? Well, that depends on where you are in your life and how difficult your experiences have been. You may be able to identify and release the issues yourself, or they may be so buried that you'll need assistance. So here's the do-it-yourself version. You ask yourself questions. Your inner self or your higher self knows the answer, so you just ask and listen. You can do this as an exercise. Sit quietly with a paper and pen, and then ask yourself, why do I feel like I have to fix and help people? A response will pop into your head. Write it down. Ask yourself the question again, and another response will pop into your head. Write this one down. Keep doing this, and you'll get a whole list of reasons. Some of them may not be useful, but one or two will reveal your core unhealthy beliefs. So now what? What do you do with the beliefs? You release them. Now to do this, you sit quietly like before and let the beliefs rise to your awareness. Your goal is to simply observe them non-judgmentally, but yes, I admit this is not always easy. Maybe you experience resistance. So if you do the same thing. Bring the resistance to your awareness. Your objective is to feel the emotion that underlies your beliefs and let it go. The emotion is the energetic charge that keeps the unhealthy beliefs alive. When you release the emotion, you can change your beliefs as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that your experiences aren't just in your head, they're also in your body. In fact, your body may be more aware of the issues than your mind. Tension, anxiety, pain, fear, it's possible that you have these feelings and you don't know why. So that's another way to identify what is going on. You can ask your body what's wrong. If you listen carefully, you will get an answer. Now, I don't want to imply that everyone can sit down in an afternoon and break the compulsion to fix and help. These patterns can be deeply ingrained within you, especially if you were trained to be this way by your parents. If you've lived your whole life as a rescuer or people pleaser, it will take some time to unravel. You may need techniques like EFT tapping, which I'll be talking about a lot more in the future. But I do want to assure you that recovery is possible. I've talked on many occasions about making the decision to heal from your experience with the sociopath. This is what I mean. Actively go looking for those beliefs within you that have made you vulnerable. Once you find and release them, you'll be on your way to recovery. So that's the presentation for tonight. If you've been betrayed by a psychopath, antisocial, or narcissist, reach out to me. I can help you to understand what happened, put down the emotional burden, and move forward. For more information, please visit lovefraud.com/talk to Donna. So now I'll answer your questions. Please go ahead and type your comments and questions into the chat. Feel free to ask me anything, whether related to this particular presentation or not. So Monica says, I described her situation exactly. Okay, well, if you want to add a little more detail, I'll try to address what you're experiencing. But in the meantime, I wanted to go back to how these beliefs form. It doesn't take much for us to internalize harmful beliefs, or beliefs that don't seem harmful at the time, but end up influencing, how we develop and how we interact with other people. So as I was preparing this presentation, I had a flashback, and it totally just popped into my head. I had no idea that it would happen. So here was the flashback. When I was a kid, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, 10, maybe, somewhere in there, I remember my mother joking with her sister, who was my Aunt Judy. And my mom said that she should change my name to Donna Go Get Me, because she was always saying to me, Donna, go get me this, or Donna, go get me that, or Donna, go get me this. So I did it. I was a good kid. And when I did it, I felt approval. So I was rewarded for being helpful and also for doing well in school. Now, that is probably where, at least contributed to how I got this idea in my head that I needed to be doing for people in order for me to in order for them to want me around. And because the thing that goes along with this is that I don't remember many other interactions directly with my parents. I guess I had them, but I don't remember. But I do remember this, and I do remember that I was the helper. When my younger siblings were born, I was the helper. I was working, trying to do that. And so anyway, I'm in the process of being certified with for clinical EFT tapping. And so what that means is that I've kind of demonstrated this before. EFT tapping means that you tap here. This is called the karate chop point, and it helps to calm your parasympathetic nervous system. No, the sympathetic nervous system. It helps to calm the sympathetic nervous system and convert it into the parasympathetic nervous system. So when I was thinking about this Donna Go Get Me thing, I was a little emotional about that. So I did it. I said, my mother always said, Donna Go Get Me. And then you tap on the different locations, and what these are is endpoints of different meridians that are in your body. So as I was doing this, trying to release whatever negative emotion was attached to that, another image came to mind. And this was an image of much later in life. It was after I had been with my sociopathic ex-husband. And one of the things that I did, and maybe you know this if you know some of my story, but I started contacting some of the other women who were, who my husband took money from. And one of them lived, a few hours away from me. So she actually came down to see me, and we went through all my husband's paperwork. The guy was a pack rat. He had all kinds, boxes and boxes of paperwork, faxes from previous women, email correspondence, all this other stuff. And so we were going through it because we were organizing it to turn it over to the FBI. Because this man had a pattern of stealing money from women. We wanted to turn the information over in hopes that they would prosecute. So anyway, we're there in the dining room in my house, and the other woman who became my new best friend actually brought her daughter with her, and her daughter was perhaps about 8 or 9 or 10 years old at the time. And so we're going through the papers, and the daughter wanted to play Monopoly. So they had the Monopoly board on the table, the dining room table, and we're working on the papers. And so this woman was going back and forth between dealing with the papers and playing Monopoly with her daughter. And I was shocked because I don't remember one time that my mother ever played a game with me. And it was just like, oh my God, I didn't know moms would do something like this. So what I'm saying here is that the experience that I had was of my mother saying, Donna, go get me. And I don't remember any kind of interaction like playing a game. Maybe it happened, but I don't remember. So this caused me to get emotional. And I tapped on this again, to try and release the emotion about it. The point being, my parents were not malicious. They did the best they could. They were young when they got married. I think my parents were both 22 when I was born, and so they're new in the world. They're kind of overwhelmed. And they were doing the best they could. But even so, I managed to absorb this information that I would get approval for being helpful. And unfortunately, it had an effect on me that kind of contributed to me getting involved with the sociopath. So I'll be talking more, as I said, about EFT tapping in the future because I am in the process of being certified in clinical EFT. And that means I'll be able to help you to access these types of emotions and to release the attachment of it, because the way memories work, and I'll be explaining more of this in the future, is that when we have a negative experience, if we're not able to process it at the time, sometimes it kind of gets buried in your mind or in your body or in your energetic field, and this is called a trauma capsule. So sometimes to protect you, your body actually kind of stores whatever happened and takes it out of your memory because it's too difficult to deal with. And so one of the things that EFT tapping can do is to allow you to access these trauma capsules, open them up, and complete the processing of your emotions attached to whatever happened. It's really amazing stuff. But so anyway, this is a kind of simple example of how it can be used. But it also can be used on situations that are more difficult. So, oh my goodness, we got lots of comments here. Monica says she married her mother. Well, you're certainly not the first person who has done that. Okay, so Scorpio Bird says, or asks, if you realize as an adult that the dysfunctional parent will never be fixed, will the pattern stop? You will still need to address the pattern within you. I mean, at least you know where it came from. So that's good. That's a step, definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, you know why you're doing what you're doing, but you will still need to unravel the emotions attached to how it all came about. So one of the things with clinical EFT is that you want to be very precise in addressing the experiences and your memories of the experiences. So the way you would do this is you would try to remember a particular incident that you think is attached to this behavior, where you learn to be a pleaser, a people pleaser, or a fixer, or that type of thing. So what you want to do is bring these memories to mind, and as you bring them to mind, you're tapping on the points. And so what this does is it's actually counter conditioning. It allows you to bring the event to mind while at the same time soothing your nervous system, which takes the emotional charge out of it. So you would still need to do that in order to get the negative emotions out of your body and to release them. but at least you know where it came from and where it started. So then you can start looking around for, exactly what those incidents were, so that you can release them. Okay, so Joey's agent says, my mother had borderline personality disorder and she demanded that I help her. And it set me up to be a people pleaser. So again, you can do exactly what I just suggested with Scorpio Bird, is to, at least now you know that your mother was disordered and, you were just trying to survive. I mean, when you're a kid in this situation, it's just, you don't recognize that your mother has a problem. You don't think about even the possibility, or it's not a possibility to like trade in your mother and get a new one. I mean, that's not going to happen. So as a kid, all you can do is figure out a way to survive. And, one of the ways you do that is by complying with her demands. Your mother was demanding that you help her. Well, you did, because if you don't, I'm sure you found out what would happen in those cases. So it is important to understand where it all came from. If you have these traits, people pleasing or fixing. But then that's the first step. The second step is to address the emotions of it so that you can release them and move forward. So, okay. All right, so Julie says, is it possible to heal from a toxic spouse if you are living in the same house? Well, that does complicate matters, but sometimes people have no choice, especially if you have kids and you're still, trying to, protect the kids, or if you're in the process of divorce or you haven't even gotten to that point. So you can kind of do it with some caveats. I mean, if your husband, I guess it's a husband, if your spouse is like violent and, overtly abusive, like that's you're probably not going to be able to heal under those circumstances. But if he's just kind of critical or cheating or, some of those things that you can kind of ignore as best you can, the thing to do would be to disengage emotionally. And I actually address this in my book, Senior Sociopaths, because a lot of the people who talked about their experiences with spouses over 50 who they ended up thinking or realizing were sociopaths, some of them explained what they did. And essentially, if as long as the person's not violent or something along those lines, you may be able to sort of lead parallel lives. In other words, you disengage emotionally. You have no expectations that your spouse is going to do what a normal spouse should do. You just kind of say, okay, that's what it is. He's going to do his whatever he does. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that this person is simply going to continue to be that way. And then you live around him. Again, assuming that you're talking about a man. You have your own life. You find your emotional support from other places. You find your own activities from other places. So, I mean, there are people who are able to do this and kind of realize that, oh, well, it's not going to change. This isn't the marriage that I wanted, but, this is what I have, and figure out, how to make the best of your own life, despite what the person is that it's such a disappointment. Okay. Ted says you're done fixing. Fabulous. This is great. I love your quote, Ted. Ted says, before you heal someone, ask them if they are willing to give up on the things that make them sick. Hippocrates says that. Well, definitely a memorable statement, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for attending tonight. I love the comments, love the questions, and I thank you again. Just to keep in mind, be sure to check out the True Lovefraud Stories podcast. That's where I interview survivors, and they tell their own outrageous stories of betrayal. And I definitely have a few of people who were people pleasers. I also interview experts who address the issues that are raised in the stories. So you can listen to the podcast, on YouTube Music, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. And again, please subscribe to Love Fraud Live. When you do, you'll automatically be notified about all my new videos, and you'll also help to boost the distribution of Love Fraud Live, so you'll spread the word about the dangerous sociopaths living among us. You'll find many helpful links in the window below this video. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you. Oh, we won't see you next week because next week is Thanksgiving or the night before Thanksgiving, but we'll see you the week after that. So again, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Good night.